Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alon.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, welcome listeners. Thanks for joining in. This is Mark, and I am excited to bring you part 2 of our conversation with Curtis McKenzie. If you have not yet listened to part 1 from last week, I suggest that you go back and listen to the first half of our conversation. It really sets the stage for Curtis's story and how he got to where he is today and why we're having the conversation with him that we're having. Because we're going to pick up right where we left off last time today with part 2 as we go deeper into his story, uncover some of the pain that he's had to navigate through, and really capture the experience and the wisdom that he has to share with us and with you. So we are excited to bring to you today part 2. I should also remind you that some of this conversation gets a little more colorful and perhaps a little more explicit than what you are used to as our normal content on The Next Man Up. But I promise you that hearing Curtis's story full through is going to be well worth it. Before we do that, if you are listening to us in the Bradenton, Sarasota, Florida area, I can't tell you how excited Alon and I are to join you on November 8th and 9th for what we're calling the Being Men Weekend. We've got a Rite of Passage workshop for fathers and sons planned on the evening of the Friday the 8th, and then Saturday this workshop, this conversation around overcoming pornography, how to recapture the sacredness and the gift that is our sexuality. And so we're excited to join you. Can't wait. I'm sure the weather in Florida is going to be better than Ohio in early November. And so if you are interested in being a part of this weekend but have not yet signed up, get yourself out to firstbradenton.com and under their ministries option, go to the whatever weekend and find the Next Man Up event. Get yourself registered, you and your son, and we look forward to being together with you, getting a chance to meet you, and working through these things together. Okay, so now let's get to part 2 of our conversation with Curtis McKenzie.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So, all these people. And it's interesting because I think it's like that. I think that we have our fathers have opportunities to build into us, but it's really cool also that there's other like faces of men who can and have the opportunity to be mentors in our lives as well, and all that adds up into helping us become the men that we are today. And so fast forwarding. You got 2 kids.
Yes.
You have a son. You have a daughter. Like, what are some of the things that you've learned that you feel like it was important to pass on to them as they grow up and become the man and a woman that they're intended to be or supposed to be?
Right. I will say that, honestly, I believe that I was very selfish. I was a lot like my father as far as, right now I have no desire to have children.
Okay.
And I was focused on my career. And I wanted to be the best at this, and I wanted to do that. So I had already had kind of those snippets of internal training, if you will. To be a success, you've got to be this.
Yeah, of course that would ring out in my life. Yeah.
I want you to be service-oriented, so you've got to be the guy who does this. And you have to do this for the public, blah, blah, blah. So these things that are already instilled in me, I'm thinking, well, that's really what I want to do. And right now, we're going to put this on the back burner as far as having children. Truth of the matter is, I had a great marriage. but I have an infidelity issue. All right. And I stepped out on my marriage and ended up having I had an affair, and the woman I had an affair with, younger, of course, and she became pregnant. And my thought was, well, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this.
Thanks for being honest and truthful in that moment.
That was ugly.
No, some,
but
we don't
it
like
was.
to admit that stuff. Yeah.
It is what it is. I did it, and that was the first moment. And this is 1996. That's the first moment where all of a sudden, all this service and being the best at your job and everything just kind of took a back seat and halted. And I thought, you know what? Holy shit. Can I say that?
No.
Holy smokes.
There we go.
What am I going to do now?
It was a wake-up call.
I am not ready for this. I'm not ready. I'm not near the man that I should be. I have no training. What am I going to do? None of my buddies had kids. And, and those that did it by accident in high school and were, and they're no one to look at and follow and go, well, you're doing a pretty good job.
Okay.
Here I am, and I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, this is a horrible scenario. This is absolutely horrible. Now I got to go tell my wife, who was my high school sweetheart at the time, all the way up and through. You know what? Wonderful, absolutely wonderful woman, and I truly,
I met her.
To this day.
She is a sweet woman, right?
No, you've never met her.
Pause.
I hope for the best for her,
Okay.
no matter what. But you talk about she was a woman who I had the baby. I didn't have the baby. Her mother, had the baby. At 3 months, I got visitation rights. All right, because I thought, you know what, I can do this. I should be able to do this. I bring the baby back to the house. Now, we've already gone up and down. It's been a horrible emotional roller coaster. But this woman had unconditional love for me. And I don't know another woman other than a mom who ever had unconditional love for me. And I knew about Jesus and I knew about God, but I wasn't at that point yet.
Okay.
All right? Okay. So here I am. This woman picks up my son, John Cody, and says, you know what? I can love this baby if you're willing to make this work.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow is right.
Wow.
You talk about your throat getting dry.
Right.
I was not the man that I should have been. And I did not take advantage of that.
Wow.
The small visitation that I did have with my son at the time, it wasn't enough. And having held him, for the first time and met him in the whole 9 yards, I thought, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. It changes.
Exactly.
When you hold
This
that
is
baby.
pretty cool, man. But you know what? I couldn't just be a part-time dad.
Yeah.
And I gave up. I gave up the woman who truly had unconditional love, right? And I said, I'm sorry. I have got to go be a dad. So talk about that ultimate wake-up call.
Sure.
I bailed on one of the best relationships I've ever had in my entire life.
Okay.
To go and try to be, a super dad with, my new son and
Sure.
his mother that fizzled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And history once again repeated itself.
Sure.
My father had left prior to me being my second year birthday, right?
Okay.
Well, she left me. She left me, and I ended up trying to go back to that woman, my original wife, and she said, it's too late. And you know what? As sad as I was happy for her that she was able to move on.
Okay.
She was truly a good woman, very good woman. And again, you know what? Hopefully she's doing well. But yeah, so here's the cycle.
Yeah.
I watched my dad go through X amount of marriages and divorces, and here I am doing it all over again. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell am I thinking? What am I doing? Mm-hmm. Now here's the cool part. Here's the wake up. 96, my son is born in 97. 98, I decide I need to probably do something. I'm 33 years old. I walk into this little church down in Grove City. In walks a buddy of mine from years ago. We served together in the police department.
Okay.
All right. Brad, Curtis, how you doing? I'm doing great. How are you? What are you doing here? This is where I live. It's my home church. What are you doing here? I don't know. I really have no idea.
Got no clue, but I'm here.
I said, I'm looking for something a little bit larger. And he says, he goes, well, I think you come to the right place. Wow. I said, let me introduce you to my family, Turn around, here's my new son, and here's, his mother. And he's like, oh, well, look at you. Now, he was at my wedding. And he's like, that's not the same woman.
I don't remember this one. A lot of plastic surgery's gotten really
Awkward.
well.
Yeah, you took a brunette, you turned her into a blonde. Knocked about 5 years off.
Oh, jeez.
But you know what? His father-in-law, was a guy named John. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. John Hayes. Thank you. John Hayes married Brad and Sue Ann 10 years prior, and I stood up in their wedding. John was the preacher that resided over that church.
Okay.
All right?
Interesting connections.
Yes. So I've got this whole 6 degrees of separation thing going on, and John decides, Curtis, you need to take a basic Bible study course with me. And I said, I don't know if I'm really ready for it. No, I'll see you Tuesday.
It wasn't an option.
It really wasn't.
Yeah,
it really wasn't.
Yeah.
And John, you know what? I love that guy. So away we go on this Bible study, and it's like an 8-week course. Okay. So we're week 7, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm out. He's like, guess what? We're going to do a theology study. Right?
On it goes.
Little did you know.
And on. Now, the one thing I will say is I learned more about, A, what was in the Bible, B, what God was what God's plan for me was.
Yeah.
As well as learning to grow up, because I thought I was a grown-up.
Of course.
I carried a gun, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I was a police officer.
Right.
I had power. I had, responsibility.
Yeah.
I helped people. I delivered a baby one time. And it wasn't mine.
That's awesome.
I really thought that, I was the man.
Okay.
And, that
Just wasn't the case,
that
right?
just really wasn't the case. You talk about getting knocked to your knees. And Cody's mom, Cody's my son, Cody's mom made an announcement that, you know what, you're not really the man for me. I want to leave. I'm taking the house. And I said, eh. And for a minute, I agreed. I said, you know what? Second thought, no. You want to leave? Go ahead.
Okay.
She did. Took it all. But I said, here's the deal. I said, I'll take the boy half the time. I said, and if you're going to be out running around, I'll take him all the time that you're going to be out running around as well. And you know what? I was a single dad for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And I mean full time.
Yeah.
You know, she was out finding herself.
Okay.
And you talk about really waking up and learning to reach out and ask for help. And I will say, having been accepted into that church was a godsend.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
I never fully took advantage of anybody over there, but the truth is, I had more people cooking for me, and I had more people looking out for me
Sure.
than I think I had ever had.
Okay.
And you know what? You talk about growing up quick. Now at 33, 34 years old, I thought I was already a grown man, right? Didn't have a clue.
Right.
You know? But you know, that's where the rubber meets the road, man.
Okay.
That's where you figure out, you know, either
So you did answer my question.
okay.
Yeah.
You did. And like, you know, like I said before, everyone's story is different. We all get there at different times and different vehicles to arrive. But it sounds like, yeah, man, you made a choice, and there was a community that you had that helped you in making that choice when you turned that corner. And it sounds like you manned up.
I did.
You daddied up.
I did. Yeah. I got lucky.
Yeah.
But I had a great support system along the
man.
way, and that's the difference. I think that's a big problem with, especially young fathers that aren't ready. Number one, it's unfortunate. I think some of the young people today that grew up in the social media era, I don't know if they truly have meaningful relationships that are one-on-one, you know, or whether or not they have a core group of friends, and if they do, it's very limited. It's kind of like learning about sex for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think you know because you heard from Johnny's big
That's
brother.
Right.
Right.
But you don't know nothing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you don't know
Who told
nothing.
you? Well, Johnny's big brother. He knows that. Well, how old's he? He's 16. What?
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting,
He
yeah.
doesn't know anything, you know?
Interesting.
You know?
As you were describing, I'm taking you back to the beginning because I wanted you to finish your story. It's new to me, so thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable and transparent here. But the question that I've been wrestling with from the very beginning, you kind of answered, or at least maybe implied, but how did you get to a place where you were able to look back at Jack and Lynn and see the positive and not just become this victim for how you were treated, and not just see the alcoholism or the infidelity or any of the other isms that you mentioned or didn't mention? How did you get to that place where you're able to see it as these were opportunities, these were challenges? Don't mean to take away from that, but instead of cursing them and that whole situation, you're like, well, this was a good moment and this was a learning opportunity. You understand where I'm going?
Yes.
Because not everybody gets there.
Yep.
So
Correct.
I'm curious how and where you got to this point to be able to have that perspective.
Well, I did a lot of cussing for a long time. Truly, I rather than dwell on the anger that I had because I carried it with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And I also realized, well, it took other people in my life to point out you're angry.
Yeah.
You know, you know, you need to work on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have to get to the point where you realize it yourself. And you make that commitment to look at it as an opportunity and not that victim mentality.
Yeah.
You know, because that's an easy one to fall into, I think.
It is.
I have always looked at everything as an opportunity. I've always tried to be a positive, upbeat person. And I believe that attitude and mindset, I think that takes people further. It takes people further than living in your own head and being, you know, well, being a wreck. 1992, it was June 6th, actually. I got married, and I quit drinking. And that was kind of a demon for me. By then, I had been kicked out of far too many bands, far too many bars. I had actually lost a job because I was drinking on the job.
Oh, wow.
And that's a tough one. I struggled with that for a while because, of course, as a potential alcoholic and drunk, I kept thinking to myself, well, this has got to be somebody else. This is someone else's fault. It's not mine. You know, I just had a little bit.
Right. It's not a problem.
It's not like I was drunk.
Right. It's not a
I
problem.
was just drinking. It wasn't like I was really drunk.
Yeah.
You know, but those are those moments. Those kind of, you know, there's a book I read called God Winks that are moments of reflection. But if you look deeper, you'll realize that, you know what, it's just a wink. It's a little hiccup that God gives you, and He says, "Hey, pay attention." You know.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to be in touch with your spirituality. Another story. But so in 92, I quit drinking, and the affair I couldn't even blame on alcohol at that point,
Yeah, you were
which was really kind of bad if you think about it. You know, and I remember Amy saying, "Were you drinking?" No, I wasn't. She's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" But you hit those moments, and for me anyway, I hit certain moments in my life that responsibility kind of took over, and you, when you're a drunk or an alcoholic or whatever your drug of choice is, when you're an addict, you've got to figure out how to move forward, how to get out of those ruts, or you'll just continue to get in your own way. And that is what I found myself doing. I had every opportunity in the world to be a better man. And it was easy for me to blame so-and-so and so-and-so. But then once you get to a certain point, you just kind of go, you know what? This is all me, man.
There's nobody else to blame.
Yeah, this is all me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the jackass that's making it difficult for myself.
Right.
You know? And once you take responsibility, which is exactly what I did, I had to break it down. I had to take responsibility for my own actions. And with sobriety in my life comes self-reflection, right? Now, I'm still grumpy and I'm still angry. And I'm still thinking to myself, you know, well, my father wasn't there for me, and this stepfather of mine, he was an ass, you know, and this other stepfather, he didn't do a damn thing, and on and on and on. So there's still plenty of people to blame. But as I start to mature a little, which is kind of an oxymoron because, I mean, who was the one that had the affair?
Right, yeah.
But I'm mature now, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
But you go through this, I know I did. I went through kind of self-evaluation, and you realize that you still have a choice. You can be sad, but you still have a choice.
Yeah.
And that choice is to get up and make the best of your day. Who controls your day? Well, you know what? I do. I control it. I control my emotion of my day. I may not be able to control all aspects of it, but I'm the one that can control myself during my day.
Yeah.
And if I'm busy worried about what happened in 1971 versus what's going on in 1991, or, wherever, pick your point, I realize that there's always a choice and there's always an option.
It's a hard one, though.
You're right, brother.
It's really hard.
No, I do not minimize that at all. And I'm sure you guys could do an entire study on an entire lost generation of guys that are our age or my age, who all feel the same way. Well, my dad really wasn't around. I didn't learn. I learned how to play ball from, Ned Ryder's dad.
Yeah.
There's a ton of us kids out there that are like that.
Yeah.
But do you continue to beat up your old man because he was doing the best he could? Or do you just move forward?
It back to that choice again, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tears. A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of, why me? But then you realize, I'm going to slide right into that victim mentality. Yeah. Now, what good am I to anybody around me if I can't break out of my own funk? I got to stop living in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a common challenge, regardless of what your past looks like. You made it through a bunch of challenges. And I'm sure you would say, well, Mark, don't put me on a pedestal. I haven't arrived yet. And that's not what I mean.
Okay.
But to be able to be here and have this conversation, given what your past looks like, means that you've made some choices, you've reoriented your direction, you've found some divine grace along the way as well. And so you're able to be here and have a chat with us and be open and honest. I think a lot of our listeners also have either the challenged past or the temptation to just retreat into that victim type of thinking, or to pull back in fear, or to settle for a choice that is a little easier, doesn't demand so much courage or so much faith or so much engagement or energy, whether it's physical or emotional, when it comes to being a parent, or being a spouse.
Oh, true, yeah.
It's just, I think even though your story may have a lot more isms related to it than others.
Narcissism.
Right, like just go down through the list.
Go through, yeah, man.
The challenge and the choice is still there. What do you do with it?
What do you do with it? Yeah.
I absolutely agree. But I also think that one thing that I was always taught, and that was, no matter how bad it gets, somebody's always got it worse than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
You could be the guy that's bitching about eating with a plastic fork and look over at the guy next to you and he's got no arms.
Yeah.
All right? So it's all perspective. It's just all perspective. And for me, I was always able to rise above and look at that flip side of it. I am truly the half full glass guy, almost to the point where it's annoying sometimes.
Yeah, it's how you're wired, right?
But it is how I'm wired, and I think it's helped me through a tremendous amount of just pitfalls and low blow crushing moments in my life.
Sure.
But the truth of the matter is, it can always be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it takes some damn good friendships, and it takes a good relationship with yourself, as well as your higher power, be it God or whatever you choose to believe in. You know, that happens to be my belief, but you got to be grounded some way, shape, or form. You know, one of my big issues, I know that I need to have a woman that is my big cheerleader. I need that in my life, and I'm blessed because I have it. But that is kind of my anchor, rudder, so to speak. Not an anchor. It's probably the wrong term. Yeah. Sorry, Bear. Somebody.
If you listen.
Yeah. Good point. But I work very well as far as seeing a goal and going after that goal, but I still need that ballast.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And whereas I can drive the ship, I need to be able to come home and know that my ship is doing good. You know, I need that reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really probably, if I had like an Achilles heel, that would be it. You know, I need that support group on the back end going, hey, I think you're doing it the right way, or hey, slow down, because I think maybe you should try this. You know that, and in my prayer time, my you know.
Sure, man.
I'm not the best Christian in the world, but you know what? I tried my best to
pay
it forward and be the best man I can be.
Sounds like what I don't know. When I hear you say that, it sounds like you're saying, like, look, I'm open to Jesus's like voice in my life.
Oh, every day. You're kidding?
I'm open to let it spill out into the world around me, and that's important. I think that's I don't know. I don't know if there's actually the world's best Christian out there. I think that's
it's a myth,
yeah,
right?
you know what I mean?
It's this bar that we
it's
set for ourselves that
I
is like near to perfection, which is just ridiculous.
I think God is like saying most of the time, hey, I love you. Would you accept my love for you?
Yeah.
And would you learn to love yourself?
Those are the hard moments, though.
They are hard moments.
Those are. It sounds really easy. It sounds really simple, but it's so hard. Yeah. You know, and so it's not really anything about doing or being the best. It's more of like just being open,
being able to receive it.
Yeah,
receive the best,
and by all means, just become that fountain that flows that all out to the world around you. You know, but Curtis, man, look, dude. We're actually live here at
a big shout out to Governors for hosting us, right?
Shop
we do happen to have the owner on the show with us.
That's 33 East College Avenue.
That's right. Yes.
But it's really cool. But you know, we had to turn the AC off.
We're all starting to sweat and stink a little bit now.
I'm starting to feel like this wetness underneath my armpit. And I'm like, oh wow, okay.
You're right by the window too. Yeah.
But look, man, there's so many other questions that I have, and maybe we can go another time.
I
appreciate
you guys just asking me to be here, and I
appreciate you a lot
for being long-winded.
No,
not at all, man, not at all. I just man, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a guest. This show is all about having just a couple of guys having a conversation about being a man and raising up the next generation of men, and like. It's always cool to get real people sharing their real stories.
Yep.
Because you don't know who's listening.
Yep.
You know, and like Mark has a different story than I do. I have a different story than Mark does. You have a different story than us, and we have different stories than you. But they're all stories, and they connect.
You're absolutely right.
And the hope is that your story, as you've spoken, it sparks something in people. Whether it be large or small, to think like, how did I end up where I'm at? What were the choices? What were the things that propelled me when did I become a man? How am I like passing that on with my son or with the local kid in the community who happens to work at the same place that I do?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
like, much appreciated, man. And thank you so much for your time. I don't know if you want to throw anything in there, Mark.
Yeah, just I appreciate you being open. Alana and I spend a lot of the show here admitting that we don't have it all figured out, that we aren't perfect.
I'm waiting for that moment.
And that we've made mistakes, and mistakes have consequences and to varying degrees. I get it. Our stories are different, but it takes a lot of courage to come on here and be open and transparent and say, look, I screwed up. But God is redeeming me,
so good
and He is turning this around for me as I lean into what He wants to do and who He is. And so, thank you for opening your story, opening your heart, and just for sharing with us and our listeners. I know your story is yours, but I know it will resonate with those that are listening because the themes are the same, and the challenges, the choices, circumstances are different.
I'm truly not the first person out there who's ever had these, so hopefully...
That's right.
And this is one of those things that I learned. I went to a great group. I was part of a great group. We called it Men of Character. And it was really just an accountability group of men, and we met once a week for 1 hour. And I remember just being tired, not wanting to go one day, whatever it was, long day, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought to myself, you know what? You got to go. Off I go. And one guy that I'd seen there, didn't really know him all that well. He'd first just started coming in. He was maybe 2-3 weeks, and he's like, you know what? He goes, I'm really glad to see you tonight. He goes, you make a difference for me.
Wow.
Okay.
And those words resonated because I thought about it and I thought, you know what? I was thinking the same thing because my buddy Steve was over here and I knew that he was going through a hard way and I wanted to be there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here I am. Apparently this kid is looking at me thinking, you know, I needed you.
It's like, really?
And, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, dude, I'm nobody. Are you kidding me? My point is, you're right. It's like that old, it's that old saying. If you look at your hand, all 5 fingers are different. All right, but without all 5 fingers, they don't make a good fist, and you can't use it real well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Really good. Really good. Thanks, man.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you. It's my honor to be here. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's our pleasure. All right. Well, as we always do, we end the show with a little Spanish greeting. So, Curtis, thanks again. Appreciate you. And with that, adios. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.